If you've been told that you have a flat feet or low arches, you've probably also been told that you have to strengthen the muscles on the bottom of your foot. And you've probably been prescribed things like short foot exercises, toe curls, picking up towels with your toes. And while those approaches may have their place, in today's video I want to show you why strengthening the bottom of your foot might not be a long-term solution, and in some cases it can actually make things worse. In my practice I see a lot of different foot shapes, sizes and structures, but in today's video I want to specifically focus on the low arched or flat foot feet. We're going to dive deep into the biomechanics of what's going on at the foot, but more importantly I'm going to show you some of the activities of how you can start taking care of the foot, and also how the body's center of gravity position affects the foot shape itself. One of the biggest mistakes we do when treating feet is that we only look at the foot like it's a problem of itself. The foot doesn't decide what to do on its own. It gets affected from what's going on top of it. The foot responds to load, and that load comes from where the body's center of gravity is positioned on top of that foot. Quick note, if you want to start taking care of your body center of gravity, click the link in the description and sign up to my free 14-day email sequence where I take you through the exercises that can help you with that. Before we begin, let's simplify the foot for a moment. We have a heel, we have a midfoot, and we have a forefoot. In a perfect world situation, our center of gravity is going to be stacked on top of the heel. When that happens, the heel can accept load, it can internally rotate, and it can create a stable base from everything above. But when our body center of gravity shifts forward, that changes the whole mechanics of what's going on at the foot. So when the body center of gravity gets pushed forward due to the compressive strategies at the back of the pelvis and the rib cage, the pressure moves away from the heel. The heel starts losing that meaningful pressure on the ground that keeps everything stacked. So where does that load go? Straight into the midfoot or forefoot. Now the midfoot is getting pushed down into the ground and it starts looking lower. But the important part to understand is that the arch is not lowering because the muscles on the bottom of the foot are weak, but because the pressures from the top are too hard for this foot to manage. So with this forward center of gravity and this arch being pushed down from the top, all of these connective tissues on the bottom of the foot are in constant elongated state or a yielded state, and the bony foot changes shape due to that. And now with every step you take, the load bypasses the heel and pushes this arch into the ground because it's the body's path of least resistance. So the foot keeps doing the same thing, not because it's broken, but it's adapting to where the system's load is placed. So this is why strengthening the bottom of the foot isn't always the answer. Many approaches will say that you have to strengthen the bottom of the foot in order to lift the arch up, but when taking the center of gravity of the whole system into consideration, that's not the best idea. Activating the muscles on the bottom of the foot will most often create this toe-off strategy, which is a time in the gait cycle when we're pushing ourselves forward from the foot. So biasing this toe-off strategy is going to bring our center of gravity even further forward, and it's going to bias the load towards the part of the foot that we don't want. So instead of solving the problem, we're probably reinforcing the strategy that created this low arch in the first place. Because like I mentioned, sometimes the connective tissues on the bottom of the foot are so elongated and bony shape change starts to occur. The first thing we have to do is to create a support from the bottom up for this arch to lift off the ground. That arch support is going to shift our weight back onto the heel more. It will give a nervous system a different reference, and it creates a better opportunity to shift our center of gravity back. So here's a simple thing everyone can do at home right now. Take a kitchen paper towel, fold it a couple of times until you get a nice pad, and place it underneath the shoe insole where the arch is the lowest. This will prevent the midfoot from pushing into the ground too much, and it's gonna buy us an opportunity to load the heels more. It might feel slightly uncomfortable at first, but that's normal because we're actually creating a foot shape that is needed and taking away what foot wants to do all the time. So once we have that support in the shoe and underneath the arch, we can start training the system above the foot in order to shift back and stay back. We'll do that through simple reclined exercises to teach our system to shift back and expand the back parts of our rib cage, so then when we stand up, we have more expansion on the posterior side of our body in order to land the heels and get the pressure onto the heels. One of the most important pieces in this process is to retrain the tibialis anterior muscle that goes around and under the arch here, but it also attaches on the outside of the knee. This concept that I learned from my mentor Bill Hartman, when this muscle will be contracting at the right time, is going to help to keep the arch where it's supposed to be, but it's also going to turn this shin bone inward, which is needed when we're bending the knee. So this is critical because once we start bending the knee and getting this shin bone over our foot in walking, running, squatting, this muscle has to have some ability to shorten or concentrically orient in order to provide us with proper knee and foot mechanics. But this muscle cannot do its work if the heel isn't loaded properly. That's why I mentioned the TRX and wall recline squats first in order to get the heel down, and now we can start retraining the tibialis anterior muscle. Quick note that shoes play a huge role in feet shaped like this. I have no affiliation with any shoe company, but I will usually prescribe shoes that have a firmer material on the inside of the shoe, specifically on that arch, something like a Brooks Adrenaline GTS, GTS standing for go-to support, which is that firmer material that is gonna prevent the arch from getting shoved down into the ground and hopefully hold you back on your heels more. So let's go through some simple activities. So first we have to find that tibialis anterior muscle so we have a sense of how that muscle feels, but also looks once we get it to shorten or contract. So the simplest thing is just to lay on a bench or a bed and pull your big toe and the foot up until this tendon right here pops out, and you should also be feeling the front of your shin working as you do that. So this tendon right here, this is your tibialis anterior. Doing this with the foot off the ground isn't corrective yet, but it helps us to find that muscle. So now that we have a reference for the muscle, we can start doing this in standing and actually start correcting the mechanics. You can do this without arch support, or you can use a folded up sock or a wedge and place it underneath where the arch is the lowest. So in this case, I'm working on my right foot. So I'm gonna place the right foot half a foot in front of the left. I wanna keep my weight stacked on the right heel, keep the hip, knee, foot in line, and basically my butt is straight on top of the right heel. From there, I wanna use the front of my shin, the tibialis anterior muscle right here, so the tendon pops out, and I'm just gonna dip straight down so the hip and knee start bending, but I'm staying heavy on the heel. I'm using a ton of front of the shin muscle here. I'm keeping the tendon popped out, pushing back up. So I'm basically using the muscle to pull my knee forward and to dip down and going back up. The tendon is constantly working, but I'm staying heavy on the heel. So now that we can hold the heel heavy as we push our shin bone forward with that tibialis anterior working, we can integrate this into a squat. So I'm gonna place a foam roller behind my pelvis, feet are in front of me, hip width apart, hip, knee, foot in line, and from here I wanna stay heavy on the heels, and now again I'm gonna lower down to 90 degrees at hips and knees, but I wanna see this tendon pop out again. I wanna actually use the front of the shin to pull myself down with staying heel heavy. Inhale here, exhale, push through the heel to get back up. So heel is staying heavy. I'm using my tibialis muscle to actually pull my knees forward as I'm lowering down, exhaling, pushing back up. So hopefully this video was educational and useful for you to start creating changes with yourself or with your clients. And because I spoke a lot about the body center of gravity getting pushed forward, this relates nicely to my push belly video, which you can watch here.